Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to lesson 3. Our topic is soil, and in lesson 2, I remember Mr. Mkangara took you through some of the components of soil, and you discussed about soil air. And I know you have already done the experiments that he told you to do. So we want to continue with the components of soil, and this time around we are going to look at water, or you can call it soil water. So where does this water come from? The water which we find in the soil, where does it always come from? So well, the water comes from majorly rain. When it rains, this water comes down and sinks into the soil, and that is what constitutes what we talk about as soil water. Also, there is some water which is found down in the rocks. That water is also capable of moving upwards as a result of absorption by plants in a process we call capillarity. So those are two ways in which soil can get enriched with water: through rain and also through capillarity. That's great. So is the water important? This water that we find in the soil, is it important? Yes, it is. And I want to look at the importance of soil water. To begin with, water moistens and keeps the soil humid and moist. So it keeps all our soil humid and moist, and this is a favorable condition for especially growth of microorganisms like bacteria, the fungi, the nematodes, the annelids that live in the soil. They like living in a moist and warm environment. So the moisture is always provided by the water. So water is important because it keeps the soil moist, enabling the microorganisms to live. And then this water also dissolves mineral salts, making them available for plants to take. Remember, water is a universal solvent, and therefore it is capable of dissolving almost everything to some extent. And for that reason, it dissolves these mineral salts, and from there, the plants can absorb them and use them. One of the mineral salts that are very vital for plants is the nitrate salts. And these nitrates are used by plants for building plant proteins. For example, when you eat beans, you eat peas, groundnuts, and so on, they are proteinous food. And these proteins come from the nitrates that are found in the soil. So water dissolves these nitrates, from which plants will absorb them from. Great. And then water also dissolves carbon dioxide, which is produced by living organisms that are found in the soil. Remember, these living organisms carry out a process of respiration, and the byproduct of respiration is carbon dioxide. So all this carbon dioxide which is produced by these living organisms is dissolved in the water, and eventually it forms what we call carbonic acid, and this carbonic acid is responsible for reacting with some rocks, especially the carbonate rocks and other rocks, making dissolving them, and hence enhancing or facilitating the process of chemical weathering. It's also a raw material for photosynthesis, and we are going to look at photosynthesis in much more detail when we come to the topic of nutrition in plants. And then water absorbed from the soil allows plant cells to be turgid, what we call turgidity. And this is very important for the support, especially for non-woody plants, the ones we call the herbaceous plants. These plants depend on turgidity. Examples include the amaranthus species, the dodo that we eat at home. These plants require water for them to stand strong, for their cells to be strong. So those are some of the advantages or importances of water. You can see a plant there photosynthesizing using water as a raw material that we mentioned here. So I want to look at an experiment. This experiment is to determine the percentage of water in the soil sample. If you have your soil sample from the garden, from anywhere you can pick it from, how do you know how much water is found in that soil sample? So there's an experiment that we can perform to determine how much water is available in any given soil sample. So, but before we do an experiment, we always have the requirements for an experiment. What are those requirements that we need for this experiment to be successful? So we need an evaporating dish, and then we need fresh soil. Any soil, you can get it from the garden. We need a weighing scale for determining the weight, and then we need an oven or a Bunsen burner, or even a stove. If you're at home, you can just use a stove or any heat source. And then after the materials, after getting all these materials, you then follow the following steps. The first step is you weigh a clean evaporating dish and record its weight. That word there is weight. So you get a clean evaporating dish and then you weigh it, then you record its weight in grams. And in this case, we can call it X grams. You can call it Y. If your name is Munjako Emmanuel, you can use the initials of your name, maybe M, E, or M. That's fine. Grams. That is the weight of your evaporating dish. At home, you can even use a saucepan as your evaporating dish or a metallic plate. And then fill the evaporating dish with soil and record the weight of the soil plus the evaporating dish. After weighing your evaporating dish, you fill it with soil. After filling it with soil, you weigh all the two, the dish together with the soil, and then record its weight, maybe Y grams. And then you dry the soil sample by heating it gently using a Bunsen burner. Or at home, you can use a stove for heating. Why do you heat? You heat so as to evaporate all the water, to remove water from the soil. So after heating, this soil now is dry. Yes, the soil has now dried, meaning it has the water. How do you confirm that it has lost the water? You keep on heating and weighing. After some time, you heat again and weigh until the weight is constant, meaning all the water has been lost or has been evaporated. And then you weigh the final weight now. You weigh and record the soil together with the evaporating dish. The dry soil now together with the evaporating what? Dish. And you can call that weight Z. Then after getting the three weights, we have the weight. The first one was the weight of the what? Of the evaporating dish alone. The second one was the weight of the evaporating dish with a fresh soil sample. Then the third one is the weight of the evaporating dish plus the dry soil sample. You have those three weights. So mathematically now you can manipulate the results like this. You weigh the weight of the evaporating dish, you said it is X grams. The weight of the soil evaporating dish, we said it was Y grams. Then the weight of the soil plus the evaporating dish after heating the dry soil, it is Z. So what is the weight of the soil sample alone? The fresh soil sample, it is Y minus X. Y is the weight of evaporating dish plus the fresh soil minus X, which is the weight of the evaporating dish alone. Then the weight of the water in the soil sample is Y minus Z, where Y is the weight of the soil plus the evaporating dish minus Z, which is the weight of the dry soil plus the evaporating dish. That one will be the weight of the water. The difference of the two is the weight of the water. So after determining the weight of the water, I think you can now get the percentage of water in this soil. Mathematically, how do we get percentage of soil, percentage of water in the soil? Yes, it is the weight of the water divided by the weight of the soil, the fresh soil, times 100%. That will be the percentage of water in your soil. I trust that you can do this, and I know you're going to try it. So you try and send us your findings. You can send it on my inbox so that I can be able to see what you are doing at home. This experiment is very possible anywhere you are. You don't need to be in the laboratory to do it. Well, having found out the water and how to determine the percentage of water in the soil, we now want to move to the fourth content of the soil or component of the soil, and that is humus. That is what? Humus. So what is humus? It is usually the decaying plant and animal material from the dead bodies of plants, dead animals, dead plants, dead animals, leaves, droppings from animals. That is how the humus comes about. It is dark brown and is very sticky, and gives, actually it's the one which gives the soil the dark brown color. So when you look at the soil and you get that dark color on top, it's as a result of what? Humus. So for the decay process that forms humus to work, a plenty of oxygen is needed. Why do you think oxygen is needed for humus to be formed? Yes, oxygen is needed because the organisms which conduct the process of decomposition of this dead organic matter, the leaves, the dead plants, the dead animals, the droppings, the organisms that break them down, most of them are aerobic, meaning they respire using oxygen. So therefore, when oxygen is available in the soil, the process of decomposition and therefore the process of formation of humus is very fast. Yeah, that's why oxygen is very necessary. So now we know what humus is. That dark layer on top of the soil, and which is very vital for especially plant growth. So I want to look at the importances of humus. Now, because humus is dark colored, and is rich in the soil which has humus is dark in color. So what does it mean? It can absorb more heat, and therefore it can be warm. Remember, this dark colored soil can absorb heat, and when you absorb heat, it will become warm. So this soil is warmer, and because of the warmth, the conditions for germination are favored. You know, germination takes place in a warm condition. So that warmth is very vital for germination to take place. And whenever you plant your seeds, they germinate within a stipulated time because of the availability of conditions. And germination takes place very fast in the humus because it's warm. It's warmer than other soil samples. It also has a very high absorptive capacity for water. That means it can absorb more water. What would it be if this humus could not absorb water? It means it would not be important for plant growth. Yeah, but it can absorb water, and therefore plants can grow very well. It forms a sticky coat around soil particles and binds the several soil particles together to form what we call soil clumps. It forms soil clumps. The clumps structure greatly improves the drainage of the soil. So it is very vital for the soil drainage as well. And then humus retains moisture and minerals in the top soil, and so greatly reduces the effects of drying and leaching or washing out of minerals. So when you have humus, it means minerals are also trapped in that soil. Yes. Okay. It's also a source of nutrients used by plants after it is decomposed. Remember, plants require nutrients, nitrates, and so on, which are necessary for plant growth. They can easily be found in humus. It improves soil aeration. Aeration is saturation of air within the soil. So humus improves soil aeration because of availability of pores or small holes around it. It leads to improvement of activities of soil organisms by providing them with food and shelter. If you want to find soil organisms, then you better go to where humus is. The dark soil contains very many soil organisms like earthworms and so on. And those soil organisms are important, especially in addition of nutrients to the soil. The humus also insulates soil against extreme heat and cold temperature changes. So it prevents the soil from overheating, but also prevents the soil from overcooling. So it maintains a very suitable temperature for the soil so that the living organisms that are found in the soil can survive without any change, whether any danger caused by temperature. Great. So at least now we know what we call humus and also the importances of humus. So I want to take you through an experiment 2 in this lesson. And this experiment is used to determine the percentage of humus in the soil. How can we know how much humus is present in the soil practically? That's what we want to do. So just like any other experiment, we start with the apparatus or requirements. In this case, it would be better for us to call it materials or requirements instead of calling them apparatus, because apparatus simply means only laboratory equipments. But we have other equipments which are not from the lab. So we can call them materials or requirements. And they include the crucible, the soil sample, the weighing scale, heat source, the wire gauze, tripod stand, the pipe plate triangle. So those are the ones you need. If you have them, then you can easily conduct this experiment. So the procedure or the steps that we take. The first step is you weigh a clean empty crucible and record its weight. You weigh an empty crucible and record its weight. If you don't have a crucible at home, you can even use a saucepan or a metallic plate. Fill the crucible with soil halfway and record the weight of the soil plus the crucible on the weighing scale. And you can call it X. So the first step was you weigh the crucible you're going to use, or the saucepan you're going to use, or the metallic plate you're going to use at home. You determine its weight, maybe 10 grams, maybe 50 grams. You record it somewhere. Then the second one, put soil there. Some sample, you can put it 3/4 full, and then or halfway full, and then you weigh again the crucible together with the soil. And then you can determine the weight, maybe X grams. And then after doing that, you dry the soil by heating it in an oven. You dry the soil, you heat it. Remember now in the first experiment how we dried the soil? So you do the same here. You heat it up to around 105 degrees Celsius. Because you know the boiling point of water is 100 degrees. So you can heat slightly above the boiling point of water, so that you are very sure that all the water has been evaporated or has been removed from the soil. Then after heating until the weight is constant, then you record that weight, maybe Y grams. So the loss in weight of the soil at this temperature is due to the water driven out by evaporation. So in case you realize that Y is less than X, Y grams are less than X grams, the difference there is because of the water which has been evaporated after heating. And then reweigh the soil and the crucible and record the weight. So that's what we did. Then heat the dried sample now on a crucible to redness. After removing all the water, now you heat this soil until it becomes red. Sometimes it even starts producing some smoke, as if you are heating bricks. You heat it until it is red, and then weigh the soil after cooling and record its weight. You can call it Z grams. Yes, you can call it Z. That is now the weight of the soil after extreme heating. Why do you first of all heat to that extreme? It's expected that when you heat the soil to redness, you have removed all the organic matter from the soil. You have removed all the humus. So you want to find out how much humus was there in the soil by getting the difference between the weights before heating it to redness and after heating it. As simple as that. So the results are as follows. Weight of the crucible, we said it was W grams. Then the weight of the crucible plus the fresh soil sample was X grams. Then the constant weight of the soil plus the crucible after heating at 100 degrees Celsius was Y grams. After removing all the water, it was Y grams. Then the constant weight of the soil plus the crucible after heating to redness, after removing all the humus, was Z grams. So how do we treat our results now? The weight of the soil, the fresh soil, is X minus W, where X, you remember, plus W, X minus W, where X is the weight of the soil, fresh soil plus the crucible, then W is the weight of only the crucible, then that is the weight of the fresh soil. Then the weight of the humus is Y minus Z. Yes, weight of the humus alone is Y minus Z, where Y is the constant weight of the soil plus the crucible after heating at 105 degrees. The soil alone minus water, after removing water, is Y. Minus Z, where Z is the weight after humus has been removed. So Y minus Z, that difference there is the weight of the humus. So my dear students, after picking that point right, I want you now to complete this experiment by calculating the percentage of humus now in the soil. Calculate now the percentage of humus in the what? In the soil. You can do it. It is simple. Calculate, I want that answer. You send it on my inbox, and then I will be able to get it. Remember, percentages is multiplied by 100%. Great, thank you. So we have looked at water, we have looked at humus. Yes, allow me go through another component of soil, and that is mineral salts. So what are mineral salts? Members, these are chemical elements in the form of ions dissolved in a film of water surrounding the soil particles. So mineral salts, usually if you want to get them, you cannot just get them in the soil, that you are looking for mineral salts in the soil. You can't get them. They are always dissolved in the water which is found in the soil. So some of the mineral elements in the soil include sulfur. Do you know the symbol for sulfur from the senior 1 chemistry? S, capital S. Phosphorus, nitrogen, silicon, and silicon is found majorly in sand, magnesium, aluminium, etc. And some of these are got from the weathered rocks. Remember, rocks have these minerals. And when they are weathered, when they are broken down, these minerals now dissolve into the water which is found in the soil. So members, we looked at water, soil water. I hope you now know where it comes from. And I know now you can describe an experiment to determine the percentage of water in the soil. That is my assignment for you. Make sure you know how to describe that experiment. Secondly, we also looked at the humus, and we saw how humus is formed from decomposition or rotting or breakdown of organic matter, leaves, dead bodies, the droppings from different animals. When they decompose, they form humus. Yes. And you know how it is formed now. You know the advantages of humus. We also looked at the experiment, how you can use that you can conduct to determine the percentage of humus in the soil. I want you to go and describe that experiment. Summarize it in your book, and I want to see that summary. And then also we have looked at now the mineral source, and now we have seen that they are from the weathered rocks, and they include sulfur, phosphorus, nitrogen, magnesium, aluminium, and many other mineral ions, and they are very important in the plant growth. So I want to thank you very much for being good listeners, and I want to meet you in the next lesson. The next lesson will be conducted by Mr. Mkanga Michael, and I want to meet you in the other lesson after his lesson. Thank you very much. I wish you the best. Stay safe.